I'd like to live in a place like that, but gotta have electricity, gotta have Wi-Fi. That's pretty much it. Electricity and Wi-Fi. Gotta have it. I mean, if I didn't have it, I couldn't do the YouTube videos, right?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gene's Reviews. Reviews from a regular dude, where I do trailer reactions, I react to YouTube videos, I review YouTube channels. Occasionally, I'll review a movie, but really, I just do whatever the hell I want.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gene's Reviews. Reviews from a regular dude. We're going to do one today from a channel called Unexplained Mysteries. This is called The Government is Looking for People to Stay in This Old Town for Free. But there's a catch. There's always a catch.
Sometimes a town that was once bustling with life, had a thriving industry and happy people, can disappear almost entirely, and we would not know the town existed, except for a few road signs and a spot on the map. These are ghost towns, and the world is haunted with them, lingering memories of a life that once lived there, and the emptiness that takes its place now. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be taking a look at 3 ghost towns. The federal government will put you up in this haunted ghost town, if you dare. One town tucked away in Montana attracts a diverse audience, from the avid historian to the bored summer tourist, and fans of the paranormal alike. Garnet, once a thriving mountain town, can be described as nothing more than a ghost town, one with literal ghosts at that. Garnet is the most well-preserved ghost town in Montana. An economic boom in the 19th century, as gold mines and silver mines were uncovered, saw the population massively swell. The town grew, and the numbers came pouring in. That is, at least, until the 1940s, when the mines had been exhausted. Once again, Garnet housed a small population as the hustle and bustle filtered out.
I'd like to live in a place like that, but gotta have electricity, gotta have Wi-Fi. That's pretty much it. Electricity and Wi-Fi. Gotta have it. I mean, if I didn't have it, I couldn't do the YouTube videos, right?
Today, if you stop by Garnet, the only people you will see are tourists and volunteers. Volunteers give tours, sell souvenirs, and lend a helping hand towards maintenance. The U.S. Bureau of Land Management selects who the lucky few will be, as they enjoy a break away from modern civilization. No electronics, no Wi-Fi, no running water. That being said, volunteers do enjoy a cabin that's nestled in the area. Ranger Nakoma Gainan described the town as primitive, but explained the volunteer system is for the outdoorsy types, stating, "There are trails to explore, artifacts to inspect." However, the history of the town has become only half the reason to visit Garnet. Some have suggested that the spirits and the presence of the former residents come to life in the evenings and the winter months. Garnet has been victim to reports of a piano being played in the night, and the melody sounding from a building presumed empty. Reports of unearthly noises and otherwise vague descriptions of visions and sounds that set one on edge. In the winter and autumn months, visitors have been known to describe people dressed in dated clothing, old-fashioned and somewhat transparent. There are footprints seen in the snow entering buildings, but never any going in the opposite direction.
Wow.
Regardless as to how long ago the snow last began to fall. Some report a woman simply staring from the upstairs room window at the Garnet Hotel. Ellen Baumler, a ghost whisperer with the Montana Historical Society,
That's about ready to fall over.
They cause no trouble, and anyone who visits the deserted town in the mid of winter should be prepared to meet them. She goes on to explain that the ghostly activity within Garnet is no secret, and that these entities are known throughout the area, saying that any historian researching the town is well aware of this. Despite the locals all being clued in on the town's ghostly history, the website only shines a light on the snapshot of American history preserved within the town, and does not mention any signs of paranormal guests. Would you dare to visit Garnet? And would you rent a cabin in winter when the past residents are said to really come to life?
Yeah. The thing is, I'd do it for a weekend. That'd be okay. But like I said, I can't go without my Wi-Fi and my electricity. Can't do it. I'm too modern, I guess.
Dudley Town, Dark Entry Forest. The history of Dudley Town in Connecticut
That's
has
a
been
cool
replaced
picture.
almost entirely by the words ghost town. Interestingly enough, the name Dudley Town is somewhat misleading, as the village was never a town at all. A small area in Cornwall, which happened to be home to various members of the Dudley family, picked up the peculiar name, though it is unknown precisely when this name came about. The Dudley Town area had been settled in the early 1740s by Thomas Griffiths, and then Gideon Dudley. Sometime before 1753, a good few more Dudleys joined the mix: Barzillai, Abiel, and Martin. Despite there being Dudleys in good numbers, they were far from the only family that had
No Dudley Do-Right? Come on.
settled in to make Dudley Town their home. Dudley Town, being just one part of Cornwall, was converted from forest to farmland, shifting from the glory of the trees and nature to practical agricultural land. For generations, farming took place in Dudley Town and all over Cornwall. However, the location was not the most desirable for farming, to say the least. Dudley Town sat at the peak of a large hill, and so when a better, flatter, more fertile and spacious stretch of land opened up in the mid-19th century, the population began to dwindle. With the agricultural populations relocating and the ever so steadily declining iron industry depleting, Cornwall eventually fell into being a ghost town. In the 1920s, the care and maintenance of the land was largely handed over to well-meaning philanthropists under a private trust. They cared for and worked to reforest the land, repairing what could be salvaged from years upon years of agricultural use. Now, only small traces of the original Dudley Town village can be seen, memorialised merely through cellar holes. Dudley Town sat in a valley, with the oh-so-joyous name Dark Entry Forest, a name that highlighted the shadows caused from the mountains peering down on the village. Following the abandonment of Dudley Town and the subsequent lack of care and maintenance, traces of the once thriving township are scarce, to say the least. Many old Cornwall farms were sold to New Yorkers looking for a glimpse of countryside living, advertising Dark Entry Forest as a good place to run a woodmill, promote nature conservation, and as a great, affordable place to raise your children. Life was seen again by Dark Entry Forest for a short time, as skiing trails and canoeing were taken up through the 1930s. Today, however, Dudley Town is abandoned once again, closed off to public access, with law enforcement ready and prepared to prosecute those who aim to trespass. Rumours and whispers began to invite unwanted guests and vandals, who further erased that history that once stood. The wild ideas circulating online suggest that the English nobleman Edmund Dudley was an ancestor to the founders of Dudley Town. Edmund Dudley had been beheaded for treason under the power of Henry VIII, and speculation grew, suggesting this placed a curse upon the family, a curse that followed them across the Atlantic to life in Cornwall, back in Dudley Town. This curse was deemed responsible for poor crop seasons and for large numbers of mental illnesses, though local historians are struggling to find any evidence to support the wild claims. There does not seem to be any known genetic link between the Dudley family in Dudley Town and the nobleman, and the rumours themselves are riddled with inconsistencies and inaccuracies. The slow demise of Dudley Town is far better credited to the lack of clean drinking water and poor soil to farm with, not the mystical curse. Equally, one resident's self-sacrifice used as evidence to support the nature and existence of the curse happened in New York, not Cornwall, further tarnishing the credibility of this theory. However, since the 1990s, vandalism has been on the rise in Dudley Town and Cornwall. and the release of the 1999 hit The Blair Witch Project only encouraged people to sneak around in a supposedly haunted and cursed forest.
Well, nobody can really go there and investigate because they got no trespassing and the police are there, so...
Adaminaby, the Australian ghost town that drowned. In the summer of 1957, the town of Adaminaby slowly began to fill with water as river water creeped down the hill, filling the pastoral valley. A concrete wall had been built just 18 months earlier in an attempt to monitor the Yucumbene River, though the water began to run and all the residents could do was watch their hometown drown. This disaster would turn into a precious opportunity. However, as the newly formed lake would become the thriving centre to a system of alpine lakes, tunnels and power stations, as the Adaminaby Dam, built in 1954, created the walls to Lake Yucumbene, covering the town where Adaminaby once lay. Adaminaby was inexplicably, inarguably abandoned, a ghost town, to say the least. Stone buildings lay, submerged for nearly 60 years, sitting below 70 metres of water.
Yeah, you couldn't really stay there if you're...
The Australian sun is known to leave the country
covered in water.
An ongoing battle to preserve water sources, and Lake Yucumbene did not escape this fate. A drought in the 1980s showed a glimpse of the town that once was, and again in the 2000s until 2018, when 80% of the lake had been used throughout the drought, exposing the Australian village that once thrived. The residents of the ghost town, Adaminaby, now lie on a hill, 2 kilometres away from where their town once was. The cemetery tells the stories of the residents uprooted from flooding, and many of whom succumbed to the harsh Australian weathers, or one of the many hazards working in a remote outpost. The headstones tell the stories of blizzards, falls, tragedies whilst giving birth, medical complications, snake bites, and firearm wounds. The ghosts of this ghost town did not have a town to haunt any longer. The disaster of a flood made into a vital water source which later revealed the history we had been seemingly too willing to forget. Adaminaby Dam and Adaminaby Town have been lost and recovered. Whether the ghost towns are abandoned sites that were once bustling with life, or are frequented by actual ghosts, the casualty of a town is certainly a sad one. But what do you...
Well, that first one is the only one that I think about it, and I got thinking, get me some solar panels and stuff, put them on one of those roofs, if I'm going to live there permanently, you know. And got to get Wi-Fi in there somehow, though. Got to get it in there somehow. That was the government is looking for people to stay in this old town for free. But there's a catch. No electricity, no Wi-Fi. No go. Okay. Now it's time for the joke of the day. Nobody wants to be alone. A recently divorced friend of mine is hopeful of once finding romance. Beer-bellied, completely bald. You know, I don't like her chances.
Thank you, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Mean Gene, all that fun stuff. And if you like this video, tell all your friends, leave a comment down below. And if you didn't like it, then just shut up. And I will see you next time.